Good day, everyone. This is Johanna Crisacobo speaking, the leader of Group 2. And today, we will gonna tackle about the different kind and use of figurative speeches and their differences with each other. So, let us now start. Metonymy. A metonymy is a figure of speech in which one word or phrase is substituted to another with which it is closely associated. Also, the rhetorical strategy of describing something indirectly by referring to things around it. Metonymy is a stand-ins for other words. Metonymy comes from the Greek word metonymeia, which translates to change of name. Metonymy is a figure of speech in which an object or idea is referred to by the name of something closely associated with it, as opposed by its own name. Metonymy involves a word or phrase substituting or standing in for another word or phrase. For example, friends, romance, countrymen, lend me your ears from Shakespeare's Julius Caesar is a metonymy. Although ears are part of a person, they are not being used to describe the whole here. Instead, ears represents attention and notice. Another example is the Golden Arches. It is a metonymy for McDonald's. The Silicon Valley is a metonymy for the technology sector. Hollywood is a metonymy for the film industry, and the pen is mightier than the sword from Edward Bulwer Lytton's plays contains two examples of metonymy. Pen stands for thought and reason, while sword represents physical warfare. Onomatopoeia is the formation or use of words which imitates or suggests the source of the sounds that it describes. Onomatopoeia is the use of or creation of a word that phonetically imitates, resembles, or suggests the sounds that it describes. Common onomatopoeias include animal noises such as oink, meow, rar, and chirp. Okay na yan. So here are the famous examples of onomatopoeia. The buzzing bee flew away. The sock fell into the river with a splash. The book fell on the table with a loud thump. He looked at the roaring sky. The rustling leaves keep me awake. So, the different sounds of animals are also considered as examples of onomatopoeia, just like what I said earlier. So, here are some of the animal sounds that can be used as an examples of onomatopoeia. Meow, moo, neigh, tweet, 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 oink, baa. So let us now proceed to oxymoron. An oxymoron is a figure of speech in which two opposite ideas are joined to create an effect. An oxymoron is a figure of speech that juxtaposes concept with opposite meanings within a word or in a phrase that is a self-contradiction. As a rhetorical device, an oxymoron illustrates a point to communicate and reveal a paradox. So here are the famous examples of oxymoron. Awfully pretty, bittersweet, foolish wisdom, liquid gas, original copies, tragicomedy. My room is an organized mess or a controlled chaos. So as you can see, they are combined to create an effect. They are self-contradicting each other to create an effect. Difference between oxymoron and paradox. A paradox may consist of sentence or even a group of sentences. An oxymoron, on the other hand, is a combination of two contradictory or opposite words. A paradox seems contradictory to the general truth, but it does not contain an implied truth. An oxymoron, however, may produce a dramatic effect but does not make any sense. The main difference between an oxymoron and paradox is that oxymorons use contradictory words, whereas paradox use contradictory ideas. An oxymoron is usually just two words, sometimes one, as in bittersweet, just like my examples. But a paradox is an entire statement, usually a standalone sentence or even a full paragraph. So that's their common differences. So let us now proceed to parallelism. Parallelism means giving two or more parts of one or more sentences a similar form to create a definite pattern. A concept and method closely related to the grammatical idea of parallel construction or structure, which can be also called parallelism. Parallelism as a rhetorical device is used in many languages and cultures around the world in poetry, epics, songs, written prose, and speech, from the folk level to the professional. It is very often found in biblical poetry and in proverbs in general. In grammar, parallelism, also known as parallel structure or parallel construction, is a balance within one or more sentences of similar phrases or clauses that have the same grammatical structure. The application of parallelism affects readability and may make text easier to process. So here are the famous examples of parallelism. Easy come, easy go. Flying is fast, comfortable, and safe. Like father, like son. So let us now proceed to paradox. The term paradox is from the Greek word paradoxon that means contrary to expectations, existing beliefs, or perceived opinion. It is a statement that is self contradictory because it often contains two statements that are both true, but in general cannot be both true at all. A paradox is a logically self-contradictory statement or a statement that runs contrary to one's expectation. It is a statement that, despite apparently valid reasoning from true premises, leads to a seemingly self-contradictory or a logically unacceptable conclusions. A paradox is often used to make a readers think over an idea in an innovative way. Here are some famous examples of paradox. I can resist anything but temptation. What a pity that youth must be wasted on the young. I am nobody. So let us now proceed to personification. A personification is a figure of speech in which an inanimate object, an animal, or an idea is endowed with the human qualities or abilities. So you can see here are some examples of personification: blind justice, blushing birds, dead leaves dance in the winds, and many more. So let us now proceed to pen. A pen is a play on words, sometimes in different senses of the same word, and sometimes in the similar sense or sound of different words. Humorous effects created by puns depended upon the ambiguous words entail. The ambiguous arise mostly in homophones and homonyms. So here are some of the famous examples of pun. A happy life depends on a liver. A horse is a very stable animal. An elephant's opinion carries a lot of weight. So the next one is the repetition. Quite simply, repetition is the repeating of a word or phrase. It is a common rhetorical device used to add emphasis and stress in writing and speech. Repetition is widely used in both poetry and prose, throughout all genres and forms of literature and oral tradition. Aside from helping stress or highlight important thoughts and points, repetition can be a key tool for authors and speakers in developing style, tone, and rhythm. The next one is the rhetorical question. A rhetorical question is a question that is asked not to get an answer, but instead emphasize a point. The word rhetorical signifies that question is meant as a figure of speech, though no answers is necessary for rhetorical questions. They are often used to elicit thought and understanding on the part of the listener or reader. A rhetorical question is a question asked for purpose other than to obtain information. In many cases, it may be intended to start a discourse or as a means of displaying or emphasizing the speaker's or author's opinion on a topic. So here are some famous examples of rhetorical question. How did this idiot get selected? What's in a name? That which we call rose by any other name would smell as sweet. The next one is the rhyme. Rhyme is a type of echoing which utilizes a correspondence of sound in the final accepted vowels and all that follows of two or more words but the preceding consonant sounds must differ, as in the words bear and care. In broader poetic sense, however, rhyme refers to a close similarity of sound as well as an exact correspondence. Probably most of us know what rhyme is, so
Simile. A simile is a state comparison usually formed with like, as, or than between two fundamentally dissimilar or unlike things that have certain qualities in common. A simile is a literary term and a figure of speech used to make a comparison between two unlike things by using the word like or as. Simile are used to create vivid imagery, enhance descriptions, and help readers understand the subject by learning it to something familiar. And this is the example of simile. First, he is as cunning as a fox. Second, he is as funny as a monkey. Third, her her cheeks are red like a rose. And last, my mistress' eyes are nothing like the sun. Synecdoche. A synecdoche is a figure of speech in which a part is used for the whole for a part, the specific for the general for the specific, or the material made for the nothing from it. Synecdoche is a figure of speech where a part of something is used to represent the whole, or vice versa. For example, saying all the hands on deck uses hands to refer to the entire crew. Similarly, wheels might represent a car, or threads could represent clothing. It's a way to add depth or emphasis to language by using a related elements to stand in for the whole. And this is the example of synecdoche. First, the expression lend me a hand means I need help or please help me. Second, the phrase gray bird refers to an old man. Third, the phrase all hands on deck means all men on deck, not just their hands. And last, the term Coke is common synecdoche for all carbonated drinks. Synesthesia refers to a technique adopted by writers to present ideas, characters, or places in such as a manner that they appeal to more than one senses like hearing, seeing, smell, etc. at a given time. Synesthesia is a neurological condition where stimulation of one sensory or cognitive pathway leads to involuntary experiences in a second sensory or cognitive pathway. In simpler, in simpler terms, it's a bleeding of senses where a person might see colors when they hear music, taste shapes, or associate specific colors with certain numbers or letters. It varies greatly among individuals and can be either genetic or acquired. Synesthesia is an attempt to fuse different senses by describing one in terms of another. And and this is the example of synesthesia. First, the sound of her voice was sweet. Second, the word cool is generally associated with temperature. However, in casual conversation we can hear phrases like cool dress, cool colors, wherein the visual sensation is blended with the sense of touch. Understatement, also known as meiosis, is a rhetorical device used to downplay the significance or intensity of something, often for ironic or humorous effect. It involves expressing something as less important or serious than it really is. For example, describing a disastrous event as not ideal, or a difficult task as no walk in the park would be examples of understatement. It's a form of deliberate understanding to emphasize a point or evoke a particular reaction from the audience. Features of meiosis. And this is the meaning of features of meiosis. First, it is intentional understatement. Second, it is used to belittle a person or an event. Third, it is opposite to hyperbole or exaggeration. And last, it often it often makes use of, and this is the example of features of meiosis. First, the unspeakable in full pursuit of the uneatable. Second, remister for poet. Third, grace monkey for mechanic. Third, ay fourth, shrink for psychiatrist. And last, slasher for surgeon. Difference between meiosis, litosis, and understatement. Understatement involves any minimization of something and can be used for humorous purposes, to comfort people, to be humble, and many other purposes. Both litosis and meiosis are forms of understatement and thus have more specialized uses and forms.
Good morning, everyone. I am the third reporter of Group 3. So let's proceed to the report. Litotes refers to the practice of negating something in order to prove the opposite. Generally, this means a situation in which the thing denied is negative and the affirmed opposite is positive thing. For example, it was it wasn't so bad. In this example, when someone says it wasn't so bad, they're actually using litotes to imply the situation was actually good. By negating the statement, it was bad, the speaker is subtly suggesting that the situation was in reality quite favorable. This figure of speech is often used to understate a positive sentiment and in a modest or indirect way. Meiosis differs from the other forms of understatement due its use of euphemism. Euphemism allows people to skirt around unpleasant things while they talk or write and minimize the discomfort of talking about it. Meiosis employs this, though there are also examples of meiosis in which a word connoting something small is substitute for a larger thing. For example, in meiosis, instead of saying, I have a big problem, someone might say, I have a slight issue. This use of a word connoting something small to describe something large is also a form of meiosis. In this way, meiosis can be both a form of euphemism and a form of understatement, as it minimizes the impact of the statement being made. Meiosis is a specific type of understatement that often utilizes euphemism to downplay the severity or size of something. Fact text writing must be based on fact rather than fiction. It cannot be made up. This means that when writing, it is important to ensure the information presented is true and supported by evidence. Extensive research. The piece of writing is based on primary research such as an interview or personal experience and often secondary research such as gathering information from books, magazines, and newspapers. Extensive research, the writing is based on both primary and secondary research, ensuring that the information presented is accurate and reliable. This helps to establish credibility and provide true and well-informed content. Reporting. The writer must be able to document events or personalized experience explanation. To document events or personal experience means to record or write about them in a way that preserves and communicate the details and significance of those events or experience. When writing a personal essay or memoir, it is common for the writer to include their personal experience, feelings, thoughts, and opinions to make the narrative more relatable and authentic. This adds depth and emotional insight into the writer's perspective and allowing them to form personal connection with the story. Explanation and exposition. The writer is required to explain the personal experience or topic to the reader. Explanation or exposition involves breaking down a topic or personal experience into smaller parts and providing information, analysis, or context to help the reader understand it more fully. Essay and form. Creative nonfiction is often written in essay format, example, personal essay, literary, journalistic essay, brief essay. Creative nonfiction in essay forms allows writers to explore personal experiences, thoughts, and emotion in a narrative style. It often incorporates literary techniques such as vivid descriptions, dialogue, and imagery to engage the reader. Literary elements used in creative nonfiction. Creative nonfiction is the literature or fact, yet authors of nonfictions works often use the same basic elements as fiction authors to tell a compelling story. Authors of creative nonfiction often use literary elements such as characterization, setting, plot, and them to convey information and engage the reader. They use descriptive language and narrative techniques to create a vivid, immersive experience for the reader even though the content is rooted in fact. Characters. Every story has a character, but in nonfiction, these characters are real people in order to make the work relatable and or empathic. Nonfiction author often follow the same convention as fiction authors and develop characters that catch the reader's attention. The authors describe physical descriptions, personality traits, and detailed histories to give the characters depth and relatability. In creative nonfiction, authors create real-life characters by providing detailed physical description, exploring their personalities, and delving into their histories. By developing these characters, authors aim to make their work relatable and engrossing for readers using the same convention as fiction writing to capture the reader's attention and create emotional connection with the individuals portrayed in the narrative. Detail. Details provide piece of information. Writers of biography and autobiography use details to give the actual facts about the person's life. Biographies do more than just relate details, however, the details you choose, arrange, and examine help communicate your own opinions and characters as well as those as your subject. In short, details are important in giving the actual facts about a person's life in biography or autobiography. They are not just for relating information but also for communicating the author's opinions and characters of the subject. Dialogue. Dialogue is a literary and theatrical form consisting of a written or spoken conversational exchange between two or more. Dialogue. Dialogue is a literary and theatrical form of consisting of a writing or spoken conversational exchange between two or more people. It, it is the conversation between characters in narrative. It is the lines or passage in drama which are in. Dialogue is the spoken or written conversation between characters in a story or play. It is how the character communicate with each other and can reveal their personalities, thoughts, and feelings. Dialogue is often used to move plot forward and engage the audience in the story. In drama, it is the lines or passage where the characters interact and speak each other.
Good morning, everyone. Now let's proceed of faction and dialogue. It moves the action along in a work. It also helps to characterize the personality of the speaker, which vary depending on their nationalities, job, social status, and education. It also gives literature a more natural conversational flow, which makes it more readable and enjoyable. By showcasing human interaction, dialogue prevents literature from being nothing more than a list the description in action. Dialogues vary in structure and tone depending on the people participating in the conversational and mood that the author is trying to maintain his or her. By showcasing human interaction, dialogue prevents literature from being nothing more than a list the description in action. Dialogues vary in structure and tone depending on the people participating in the conversational and mood that the author is trying to maintain his or her. When you are determining tone, hear the writing on your head, put yourself in the author's shoes, and imagine what she feels. Examining the language closely and bring your own experience to the writing. A function of programming is also block at code that performs and specific tasks. It can be called and executed multiple times within a program, allowing for reusability and modularity in code. Function can take and fix, process them, and simplify complex tasks. They are essential in creating efficient, maintainable, and scalable software application. When you are determining tone, hear the writing on your head, put yourself in the author's shoes, and imagine what she feels. Examining the language closely and bring your own experience to the writing. A function of programming is also block at code that performs and specific tasks. It can be called and executed multiple times within a program, allowing for reusability and modularity in code. Function can take and fix, process them, and simplify complex tasks. They are essential in creating efficient, maintainable, and scalable software application. Famous example: patriotic tone, and so my fellow Americans ask what country can do for us what you can do for your country. John F. Kennedy. A patriotic tone is a manifestation of love, pride, and devotion to one's country. It often involves expressing admiration for national symbols, acknowledged for his historical achievements, and the celebration of collective identity. Through language and symbolism, a patriotic tone aims to evoke a sense of unity and shared values among citizens. Aggressive tone. Can someone tell me what the hell going on? An aggressive tone conveys a forceful and confrontational approach, often characterized by hostility, intensity, a desire to dominate. It can be manifested through assertive language, verbal attacks, and a lack of consideration for opposing viewpoints. Sarcastic tone. All morons hate it when you call them moron. Sarcasm is the use of irony to mock or convey contempt, typically in a tone of voice, with a snarky, dismissive undertone. A figurative language used in creative nonfiction. Figurative language is a type of language that varies from the norms of literal language, in which words means exactly who they say for the sick comparison emphasize clarity of freshness, also known as the ornaments of language. Here are the common figurative language that most creative nonfiction writers use: adage, allegory, alliteration, illusion, anaphora, antimetable, antithesis, aphorism, strophe, assonance, accompany, ascenditone, and etc. Adage. An adage is a short, pointed, and memorable saying that is based on facts in which is considered the majority of people. Famous adages becomes popular due to their usage over a long period of time. In fact, an adage expenses a general fact or truth above life which becomes more and more popular before and accepted as a universal truth. Famous example: a penny saved is a penny earned, from Poor Richard, Almanac by Benjamin Franklin. Appearance often are the saving from the wolf in sheep's clothing by Aesop. Call a speed from Adigene by this Dorlus Arnos. Therefore, instant God help those who help themselves is not considered a universal truth because it is now the opposite of allegory. An allegory is a symbolism device where the meaning of a greater, often abstract concept is conveyed with the aid of a more corporeal object or idea being used as an example. Usually, a rhetoric device, an allegory suggests a meaning via metaphoric example. Difference between allegory and symbolism. Although an allegory uses symbols, it is different from symbolism. An allegory is a complete narrative which involves characters and events that stand for an abstract idea or an event. A symbol, on the other hand, is an object that stands for another object, giving it a particular meaning. Unlike allegory, symbolism does not tell a story. For example, Plato in his allegory of cave pulls a story of how some people are ignorant and at the same time see the light stand for an idea and does not tell a story. Now let's proceed of alliteration, also called head rhyme or initial rhyme. An alliteration is repetition of initial consonants, sounds of stresses, syllables, neighboring materials within a line or passage. Alliteration plays a very crucial role in poetry and literature. It provides a work with musical rhythms. Allusion. An allusion is a figure of speech that makes a reference to a representation of people, place, events, literary works, myths, or work of art, either directly or by implication. M. H. Abrams defines allusion as a brief reference, explicit or indirect to a person, place, or event, or to another literary works or passage.
So here are the famous examples of allusion. Don't act like a Romeo in front of her. Hey, guess who the new Newton of our school is? Stop acting like my ex-husband, please. Anaphora. An anaphora is a rhetorical device that consists of repeating a sequence of words at the beginnings of neighboring clauses, thereby lending them emphasis. So here are some famous examples of anaphora. Buying nappies for the baby, feeding the baby, playing with the baby. This is what your life is when you have a baby. Every day, every night, and every way, I am getting better and better. I want money right now, right here, all right? So as you can see, there are sequence of words that have been repeated, not just once. Yeah. So let us now proceed to antimethabole. An antimetabole is a derived from a Greek word means turning about. It is a literary term or device that involves repeating a phrase in reverse order. In the rhetoric, antimethabole is the repetition of words in successive clauses but in transposed order. For example, you like it likes you, and fair is foul, and foul is fair. Yeah, that's antimetabolic, guys.
So good morning everyone. I'm Loveteresi Gabuya. So let us proceed. Antithesis. An antithesis is a rhetorical term for the juxtaposition of contrasting ideas and balanced phrases or clauses. An antithesis is used when the writer employs two syntheses of contrasting meanings in close proximity to one another. The purpose of using antithesis in literature is to create a balance between two opposite qualities and lend to a greater insight to the subject. Another definition of antithesis is a figure of speech that places two completely contrasting idea or clauses in juxtaposition. There have famous example of antithesis. All joy the world contains has came true, wishing happiness for another's. All the misery the world contains has came true, waiting pleasure for oneself. Better to reign in hell than serve in heaven, and Paradise Lost by John Metton. Another example, give every Monday care, but few day virtue. Abraham Lincoln. Let's proceed. Aphorism. Aphorism is a statement of truth or opinion expressed in a concise and witty manner. The term is often applied to philosophical, moral, and literary principles. Quality as an aphorism, it is necessary for a statement to contain a truth revealed in tense manner. Aphoristic statements are quoted in writings as well as in our daily speech. Aphorisms often comes a pinch of humor which makes them more applying to the masses. Famous examples of aphorism. A proverb is no proverb to you till life has illustrated it. Act well with your part, there all the honor lies. Having nothing, nothing can he lose. Life is a tale told by an idiot full of sound and fairy, signifying nothing. Apostrophe. An apostrophe is the figure of speech in which some absent or non-existent person or thing is addressed as if present and capable of understanding and replying. A famous apostrophe examples. Hello darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again. Paul Simon, The Sound of Silence. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are, up above the world so high. like a diamond in the sky. Jane Taylor, The Star. Let's proceed. Assonance. Assonance is the repetition of vowel sounds to create internal rhyming within phrases or sentences. It is the repetition of internal vowel sounds to set the mood or add to the meaning of the words. Have famous examples of assonance. Men sell the wedding bells. We light fire on the mountains. I feel depressed and restless. Go and moon the lawn. Proceed. Sandy tone. As a sandy tone is the stylistic scream in which conjunctions are deliberately omitted from a series of related clauses. The principal effect or tones is to produce a hurried rhyme and synthesis. There have famous examples of tones. I remember those everything at grandma's. I full of laughter, food, family. She ran, jumped, halted, landed. A perfect 10. The dark, the moon, the stars all created a romantic effect. Now let's proceed. Cacophony. Cacophony refers to the juxtaposition of words producing a harsh sound. The word cacophony originates from the Greek word meaning bad sound. The term in poetry refers to the use of words that combine sharp, harassing, or unmelodious sounds. There have examples of cacophony. I detest war because cause of war is always trivial. Cacophony is the use of unpleasant sound for the particular event. He is dirty, routine, terrible, trogging, stupid dude. Let's proceed. Chiasmus. A chiasmus is a figure of speech in which two or more clauses are related to each other through reversal or structures in order to make a larger point. That is the closest display inverted. Parallelism. Chiasmus was used to articulate balance or other written or text. Have examples of chiasmus. The sabta was made for man, not for the sabta. Never let a toll kiss you or a kiss fool you. Love as if you would one day hate, and hate as if one day you love is. Now, the difference between chiasmus and antitable. An antitable is repetition of words in the consecutive clauses that is an inverted or transposed order. For example, you get what you want to remember, and you remember what you want to forget. Antentable examples resemble chiasmus example as they are marked by the inversion of structure. And chiasmus, however, the words and phrases are not repeated. Now, let's proceed. Cliches and idioms. An idiom is a term of phrase that cannot be understood by a literal translation but refers instead to figurative meaning that is understood through common use. An liche is a phrase, expression, or idea that has been overused to point of losing its intended force or novelty, especially when at some time it was considered distinctively forceful or novel. Examples of cliches and idioms. A bird in the hand is worth two in the brass. A matter of time, to happen sooner or later. A picture is worth is 1,000 words. A watched's pot never boils.
Colloquialism. In literature, colloquialism is the use of informal words, phrases, or even slang in a piece of writing. Colloquial expression tend to snake is as writer being part of the society are influenced by the way people speak in the society. Naturally, they are bound to add colloquial expression in their vocabulary. Colloquialism comes from the Latin word colloquium, meaning speaking together or conversation. Colloquialism. In literature, it is use of informal words. Example of this is making the word short but the meaning still remain. Another example, anak ng pating, anak ng kuba, anak ng tokwa, anak ng titing. Ano ba? Ang sabi, anyari, ATM. Consonants. Consonants is the cunning combination of consistently. Copy consonants. It is when the same consonant sound appears repeatedly in a line or sentence, creating the rhythmic effect. From example, she ate 7 sandwich on a sunny Sunday last year. Euphemism refers to polite indirect expression which replace words and phrases considered harsh and impolite or which suggest something unpleasant. Euphemism is an idiomatic expression which loses its literal meaning and refers to something else in order to hide its unpleasantness.
Euphemism depends largely on the social context of the speakers and writers, where they feel the need to replace certain words which may prove embarrassing for particular listeners or readers in a particular situations. For examples, a little thin on top instead of bald, adult beverages instead of beer or liquor, adult entertainment instead of pornography. The meaning of euphemism is the substitution of an agreeable or inoffensive expression for one that may offend or suggest something unpleasant.
Hyperbole, which involve exaggeration of ideas. It makes the reader curious and excitement because of the word used to this kind of speech.
I perceive irony. Irony as a literary device referring to how a person's situation, statement, or circumstances is not as it will actually seem. Many times it is the exact opposite of what it appears to be. Situation irony, where a situation features a discrepancy between what is expected, what is actualized. Dramatic irony, where a character is unaware of pivotal information already revealed to the audience. And verbal irony, where one states one thing while meaning another. The difference between verbal irony and sarcasm and exquisitely subtle and often contested. Irony is the use of words that are the opposite of what you meant as a way of being funny. Her voice heavy with irony. Simon said, "We're so pleased you were able to stay so long. Thank you."
Dramatic irony, where a character is unaware of vital information already revealed to the audience. And last but not the least, the verbal irony, where one states one thing while meaning another. The difference between verbal irony and sarcasm is exquisitely subtle and often contested.
I proceed a famous example of verbal irony. First, yet Brutus he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man. Um, when Mark Antony but Brutus he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man, it seems as if he is praising Brutus after the assassination of Julius Caesar. However, it's nothing but a wild rose. Second is as calm as a dog in heat. Remember, the first time dog experienced her heat cycle, the change were unmistakable: restlessness, nervous behavior, and a bit of moodiness. Third is as pleasant as surgery. The praise of pleasant as surgery is an example of verbal irony. This is because surgery is typically seen as an unpleasant and painful experience, so describing something as pleasant is surgery is a deliberate contradiction meant to create a humorous or sarcastic effect. And the fourth is as sunny as day in winter in Alaska. Thank you. Hypersialities is a figurative speech consisting of an ironical understatement in which affirmative is expressed by the negation of the opposites. In this figure of speech, the usage are unintentional, ironical, and provide emphasis to the words. Latitis is a form of underestimate which can be in the form of muses and is always deliberate with the intention of emphasis. Thank you. Proceed a famous example. $1 million is not a little amount. $1 million is after tax money. With it, you will be able to afford beautiful house at suburb for, let's say, 400k, and with the remaining 600k, you can you can actually travel all across the world. Second, Einstein is not a bad mathematician. Einstein did do pure mathematics at any point. It's a fact why he had great physics intuition. He often needed help from others to learn the required mathematics. Third is he is not the kindest person I've met. Kind people are concerned with how they are perceived by others. Good people are concerned with how they view themselves. Fourth is he is not unaware of what you said behind his back. Thank you.